Hey, what's up? It's me, Bucket Ponds, and today I'm here to show you the 1-year update of my DIY paludarium. Now first things first, we've got to dust her off. She's been sitting for quite a while, so give me just a minute. And I'm also going to go ahead and take off this cloth top because as you can see it's come up a little bit and it's not aging well. It's just a piece of old t-shirt, so let's take that off. Now for the ecosphere, the life inside. As you can see, the grass has gone insane. It has grown more than I ever expected. The aquatic layer is looking good. This is a paludarium, meaning it has a part land and part water environments inside. And my land element is just another jar, a small jar, right in the middle there. If you watch the construction video, you'll see it being put together. Very simple. I put my jar in there, I put my soil in the bottom, and then I put my rocks. And that kind of cemented my jar down inside. Created a Wallstad style aquarium out here, which we know is very fertile in this situation. And instead of sand, I opted to use marble and river rock as my soil cap. And it actually worked out really well. This tank was very messy for a long time. It's still kind of chaotic, but it's growing at insane rates. I mean, it's beautiful. I have done some filming in this tank. It's very much alive. It's doing really well. So as you see here, there's our label, 9/11/19, sealed. And once again, if you watch the setup video, you'll see all that stuff. But for now, I'm going to bring it just a little closer, and we're going to look into the plant growth and the life inside. Our grass plants that we put in there have done really well. They haven't had a single issue. You can see some of the little fronds and split off plants there. It's actually grown to encompass every space that it had available in the container. I'm really curious if we have any terrestrial creatures in there like springtails, which I didn't, I didn't add them on purpose, but I wouldn't be surprised. This is just grass that I took from my front yard. I'm not sure what the species is. Let's rotate the tank. You can also see, before we rotate, a little cloudy in there because again, it's a paludarium. It's going to be very misty, but you see the duckweed there is doing really well. Now looking at this side of the terrarium, you can see very dense moss growth through here, whereas we have grass in the middle. Our moss is really taken in a emergent or semi-aquatic fashion. I believe this is hypnum moss, Hypnum, hypnum moss. But I could be wrong. Mosses are somewhat hard to identify. But as you can see, it's a lot like a Java moss. Apparently, it has a land version and a aquatic adaptation. You can see all these little strands growing down into the rock layer and into the soil even. It's really beautiful moss, and I'm glad I decided to put some in here because it's taken really well. You can see some more feathery portions up here, the dry air version of this moss. Now, this particular jar is slightly occluded, so it might be hard to see, but yeah, that's all moss, guys. That's not algae. That's just moss, just growing and apparently producing oxygen. It's really beautiful. And if you just appreciate the tank as it is, like, she looks great. I mean, for an old pickle jar with another small jar inside, some rocks, some soil, some plants, I mean, this is really nice. And keep in mind, this is over a year after it's been sealed up. I don't open these for any reason. Trust me, if one opened, I'd be devastated. You know, these are my long-term experiments. Mostly done for fun, but also just to have something to share with you guys and to learn more myself. Now you can see some algae growing here. Nothing too bad. I'm not worried about it. Even if I was, I can't open the container to really change anything. All I could do is rotate the light, but I don't even really do that. I like for these tanks to develop in a certain way, and it seems kind of like a bad move to rotate your plant and then make them grow in another direction when they're already established like this. I'm not going to waste the plant's time. But yeah, as you can see, we have a little algae on this rock here. The aquatic portion is actually very clean, incredibly clean. I would think there would be more algae down here, but I'll show you in just a minute why there isn't very much algae. And I'll show you how I set up such a clean paludarium. Again, there's no mold in here. There is some algae and some slime here and there on the surface, but underwater is great, pristine. I mean, I wouldn't advise it, but I imagine that water's pretty healthy. Again, I like to rotate it slowly so I don't disturb the creatures that live in here. As you can see, I went a little overboard on the rock layer on the back side, but again, that was mostly to pin that jar inside, to pin it into the middle of the paludarium, and it worked really well. But there's a great shot there. Here's one of our residents, a couple of them actually. You see a friendly bladder snail there, and several ostracods. These guys are the cleaning crew. They cruise around, they eat anything that wilts down here, anything that grows down here, they'll just munch on it. They won't eat live plants so much, but if that plant does die or begin to fail, then they will eat it. Now, I'm not sure what's going on with the stringy green stuff up here. I'm sure it's some kind of filamentous algae. But I wouldn't put it past the snails to come up here and snack on it occasionally. But it looks great. And let's take a look past it. And you can just barely see the jar. The interior jar that provides a place for all that grass and moss to really root down into. And it's a little too cloudy to see it today. Maybe from another angle. Let's rotate the tank. She's still pretty cloudy on this side. I mean, she looks good overall though. You see here are some of the grass plants that I rooted into the rock layer and into the soil outside of their jar. I think it was a good move, and they seem to have survived and done really well. You can see a lot of pondweed, or that's what I've been calling it. I'm not actually sure if it's a pondweed plant, but you can see it there. Let's turn down our brightness a little bit. You can see it though, that thin stem. And there's a couple of them in there. Let's keep rotating, nice and slow. Again, we don't want to disturb anything that lives in here and miss the chance to film them, you know. But there's a better look. We might be able to see the jar now. The interior jar. Well, it's back there. You can almost see it. This tank has developed into a real jungle in there. Very lush and green. There's some wilting and some brown as well. But that's my fault for not including some more terrestrial decomposer species like isopods or something. But I'm just not very good at land species. I prefer aquatic things myself. And then we're back around to this side again. Now there's some more of that pondweed plant. Just that thin stem. They shoot up to the surface and they root in the water. There's a really crazy long one right there. But you can see this this paludarium has been doing really well. I'm very proud of it. I love all the moss that we have growing in here. Everybody loves moss. And I thought, why should I spend money on Java moss, which isn't native? It's not what they make it out to be. It's a land moss that happens to have an aquatic adaptation. And that got me thinking, like, well, there we go. That got me thinking that, there's plenty of moss in my front yard. Maybe it has an aquatic adaptation. And don't you know it? It does. So, now we have the macro lens on the camera, and you can get a better idea of what's going on in this paludarium. This is a sealed paludarium, by the way. The lid has remained shut. I do not open them, just in case you missed that little tip. But here we have a better look at the bladder snails and the ostracods. Another name for an ostracod is a seed shrimp, but those are the small gnat, the small little gnat guys. They look like little gnats buzzing around underwater. They are actually a type of crustacean, and they're almost like a little tiny shrimp in a shell, like a clam shell. But they're also called seed shrimp or ostracods, or there's several other names out there. But they're very useful in a sealed container like this, a sealed paludarium or a ecosphere, if you like that term better. The bladder snails themselves are some of my favorite pets, and absolutely necessary to the way I set up ecospheres and sealed aquariums. Now, the term ecosphere itself is kind of misused in this context. The way us YouTubers apply it to these sealed tanks, it's not really appropriate. It's more of a scientific term related to the layer of life on Earth and a bunch of above my head, totally above my pay grade. But yeah, that's why I've been calling them sealed aquariums more, just to be more honest about what they are. You can search for ecospheres and find a few things, and you probably won't find much under sealed aquarium, but that should be a better term for them. This is a sealed aquatic environment. This particular tank is a sealed paludarium. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to leave you with some music and the ostracods and bladder snails here. You might see some other interesting creatures swimming around. Please let me know if you do. And as always, my name is Bucket Ponds. You can find me on Facebook, either my personal page or the business page, which I post some memes on, some plant memes and things like that. Other than that, I'm looking at setting up a website or maybe even starting a Patreon one day. So, sure, let me know how you feel about that, if you think it would be a good idea. And thank you so much for watching. You can subscribe if you want, and you can comment, and yeah, I'm always here. If you have any tips for new videos or tanks that need updates or just ideas of your own, please feel free to share them. My name's Bucket Ponds, and yeah, thank you for watching.